Welcome back to CIA Declassified. The stage is set in the early 1960s, a time when the world felt like it was teetering on the edge of a nuclear abyss. While the public practiced duck and cover, a small cell within the agency was looking at a different kind of explosion, the explosion of the human psyche under pressure. They didn't want to just predict a riot, they wanted to know how to start one. The agency needed to understand how collective behavior functions when the lights go out. They wanted to know if they could direct a population like a theater troupe using staged emergencies to measure how long it takes for a neighbor to turn on a neighbor. This wasn't about foreign intelligence, this was about the science of the artificial crisis. This was MKDRAMA. Why name a mass psychology project after the theater? The name MKDRAMA was assigned under the Technical Services Staff cryptonym system. Records indicate the suffix drama was chosen to reflect the staged or performative nature of the experiments. In these operations, the agency functioned as directors, creating elaborate scripted environments where unwitting civilians were the actors. The goal was to produce a specific emotional performance from the public, such as terror or compliance, by manipulating the narrative of the environment. MKDRAMA was the agency's attempt to turn reality into a controlled soundstage. Launched in the early 1960s, MKDRAMA focused on social psychology and crowd dynamics, specifically how unwitting populations respond to manufactured environmental stressors. A quote from a Declassified 1964 research summary: "The introduction of a secondary threat narrative during a localized power failure increased the speed of panic contagion by 60% among the observee group." End quote. Researchers utilized social inundation techniques where undercover agencies would plant and begin to shout conflicting rumors in a crowded area to observe how quickly the misinformation became accepted as fact. A quote from Dr. Sidney Gottlieb, one of the MK Ultra architects: "We are looking for the tipping point where the individual identity is swallowed by the mob mind." End quote. The project experimented with auditory stressors, playing low-frequency infrasound below the range of human hearing to induce feelings of unexplained dread in public places. Records show the agency investigated resource scarcity simulation, quietly removing essential goods from local stores to track the resulting aggression levels in the community. Researchers documented the bystander effect in high-stress scenarios, measuring how many people would ignore a staged emergency if they believed their own safety was at risk. The agency experimented with false flag communications, sending out forged emergency broadcasts over radio frequencies to see if the public would follow irregular instructions. One branch of the study looked at authority mimicry, where agents dressed as doctors or police gave absurd orders during a crisis to see if the panic state increased blind obedience. Records indicate the project used hidden cameras and acoustic surveillance in subway stations to map the flow of people during staged incidents. The project explored anami induction, the process of breaking down social norms so that the population feels a sense of lawlessness and confusion. MKDRAMA utilized sociometry to identify natural leaders in a crowd and then removed them to see how quickly the leaderless group dissolved into chaos. The program was officially shuttered in the early 70s, but the data on crowd control was transferred to the Office of Security. The agency collaborated with urban planners to determine if the physical layout of a city could be used to funnel people into panic traps during an artificial crisis. Logs describe a test where a fake contagion was announced in a building to see if people would experience psychosomatic symptoms like fainting or vomiting. MKDRAMA researchers used propaganda loops to see if repeating a lie 3 times during a crisis made it more believable than a truth told once. Records show that the sensory overload was a key tool, using sirens, flashing lights, and smoke to prevent the public from thinking critically. The project identified that humor deprivation in a population makes them significantly more susceptible to fear-based messaging. MKDRAMA tested the isolation effect, where cutting off telephone lines during a staged event forced the population to rely solely on agency-controlled broadcast. Documentation proves the agency analyzed the post-crisis cool-down, measuring how long it took for the public to become compliant after the artificial threat was removed. The program established that a common enemy, even an imaginary one, could unite a fractured crowd under the agency's directing hand. One Declassified report suggests that staged crises were used to distract the public from real-world political scandals occurring simultaneously. Technical logs confirm the use of subliminal flicker on early television sets to induce a state of mild trance before emergency news breaks. Researchers found that children were the most effective panic catalyst in a crowd, as their distress triggered immediate irrational responses in adults. The agency studied olfactory triggers, releasing the smell of burning rubber or ozone in public vents to simulate a hidden electrical fire. A quote from a Declassified 1968 field manual: "Information is not the goal is the emotional reaction to the information," end quote. MKDRAMA utilized echo chambers by placing agents in different parts of a city to repeat the same false narrative until it achieved social validation. The project determined that public trust in authority figures drops by 80% if the authority figure appears uncertain during a manufactured crisis. Records indicate the agency studied hysterical contagion in girls' schools to understand how physical symptoms could spread without a biological cause. MKDRAMA researchers successfully staged a food panic in a small town by creating a fake shortage of sugar and salt, resulting in actual physical altercation at local grocers. When we look at the Declassified sociology logs, the heaviest redactions, representing over 95% of the operational data, are found in documents with titles such as Synchronization of Global Stress Events. That file's totally blacked out, specifically the section on algorithmic amplification of societal fractures, which is missing over 7,000 pages. Why is the agency hiding how they stage manage a crisis in the modern age? Is your global shortage a supply chain issue or a script? A growing number of people suspect the stage managers are currently running their largest production yet. This idea suggests that shortages in breaking news cycles are actually MKDRAMA productions. They argue the redactions hide the fact that your panic buying is the performance the agency has been waiting for. There's a persistent theory that major national tragedies are actually false flags managed by the agency. These theorists claim the blacked-out social media intervention logs prove the use of crisis actors, hired professionals who portray victims to manipulate public emotion and push for legislative change. Some believe looking at the non-physical threat indices reveals that the Mandela effect isn't a glitch in reality, but a result of MKDRAMA memory shaping. They claim the redactions hide a program where the agency tests mass-scale psychological manipulation by altering public records to see if we will doubt our own collective memories. Gossip suggests the black bars in the resource manipulation study hide a blueprint for engineered famines. They posit that the agency orchestrates the destruction of food processing plants to see if the resulting desperation makes the population more willing to accept a total surveillance state in exchange for rations. Rumor says the broadcast synchronization redactions hide the Operation Mockingbird 2.0. This theory suggests that the agency doesn't just influence the news, they now own the anchors, ensuring that every major network reads the exact same MKDRAMA script to create a consensus reality. A few imagine the 7,000 redacted pages hide a Project Bluebeam protocol. They believe the agency plans to use high-tech holographic projections to stage a fake alien invasion, using the resulting global terror to dissolve national borders and implement a one-world government. Speculation persists that the redactions in the subject replacement manuals prove that deepfakes aren't just for social media. Theorists argue the agency uses AI-generated digital avatars of world leaders to deliver MKDRAMA instructions, meaning the person on your 2026 screen might not even exist. Fringe gossip argues the redacted sections describe the active denial systems being used on domestic soil. They claim the agency uses 5G towers as directed energy weapons to induce physical pain or voice-to-skull hallucinations in crowds during protests to force dispersal. Whispers suggest the behavioral harvesting redactions prove that predictive programming is real. They believe the agency uses Hollywood movies and TV shows to rehearse upcoming crises, desensitizing the public so that when the MKDRAMA event happens, we accept it as inevitable. Wild Theory claims the missing pages describe HARP weather modification. They argue the agency triggers unnatural disasters like hurricanes or earthquakes to destabilize regions and test how populations respond to the loss of their homes and infrastructure. Some argue that the dopamine depletion redactions hide a dead internet theory reality. They believe the agency has replaced 90% of the web with bots designed to create a hostile environment, making users feel isolated and more likely to look to the government for digital safety. Some whispers suggest the redactions are so heavy because they prove that major wars are actually controlled conflicts. This theory posits that the agency funds both sides of a war to observe military-industrial efficiency and test the breaking point of international alliances. Speculation swirls that the missing pages describe the Great Reset. Theorists believe the financial instability at present is a staged collapse designed to wipe out private property and force the public into a universal basic income system tied to a social credit score. Some suspect the redactions hide a cyber polygon exercise, a staged global cyber attack that breaks the internet to justify a digital ID requirement for every person who wants to log back in. Rumor says the blacked out sections detail smart city containment. They believe the 15-minute city concept is actually a MKDRAMA open-air prison design intended to restrict travel under the guise of environmental protection. A fringe theory posits the redactions prove the agency uses PSYOP balloons to distract the public from major legislative changes, creating a theater of the absurd that keeps the populace looking at the sky while their rights are stripped on the ground. Gossip suggests the redactions cover a program where the agency introduces synthetic parasites into the food supply to study how humans react to invisible biothreats that require constant surveillance. Some imagine the missing pages describe a staged transportation strike. They argue the agency creates travel chaos to test how long it takes for a modern population to transition from frustration to complete surrender of rights for the sake of moving again. Theories suggest that the redactions hide the fact that Q or similar online entities were agency creations, MKDRAMA scripts designed to lead the most skeptical citizens into a digital cul-de-sac where they wait for a savior who never comes. Whispers argue the black bars hide the silent sound spread spectrum. They believe the agency broadcasts subliminal compliance tones over cellular networks that cause humans to feel apathetic during major political upheaval. Rumors suggest that the 7,000 pages are also a manual for the New World Order, proving that every political debate is a kayfabe performance intended to keep the public divided while the same hands pull the strings of both parties. Was MKDRAMA a success? Tactically, it was a director's dream. The agency successfully mapped the panic pulse of the public, learning exactly which levers of fear to pull to achieve a desired outcome. Strategically, it was a total takeover. It proved that reality is a soft concept that can be edited in real time. The project was a success because it allowed the agency to transition from reacting to crisis to manufacturing them as a form of social management. By mastering the rhythm of shock and compliance, they gained the ability to steer entire civilizations without a single shot being fired. They discovered that the most effective way to lead a population is to convince them that they are in a state of permanent emergency. This operational success established that the perception of a threat is more useful than the threat itself. It turned the public into a permanent, unsuspecting focus group for the ultimate psychological script. As far as technological and operational breakthroughs go, the panic play led to breakthroughs that define the current landscape, such as crowd flow algorithms. MKDRAMA's mapping of panic is used today in stadium safety systems to prevent trampling. Rumor propagation analysis. Research into how lies spread is now the foundation for viral marketing and counter disinformation. Infrasonic mood manipulation. Low-frequency dread research is used in non-lethal crowd dispersal to make protesters feel unexplained anxiety. And crisis simulation modeling. Used to start riots then, it is now the standard for emergency response training. MKDRAMA reminds us that the world is a stage, but you aren't the director. When the news tells you to be afraid and your neighbors start to panic, remember the click of the clapboard. The most powerful drama is the one you believe is real. As the files reveal, the panic play never stopped. The agency just got better at hiding the cameras. In a world of directed reality, the only way to exit the theater is to stop following the script. Every crisis is a lesson in control, and every reaction is a data point for the next performance. The curtain never fully falls. It only changes colors to suit the current season of fear. True awareness begins the moment you realize the emergency is just another scene in a much larger production. Thanks for listening, and join us next time as we examine MK Field. In the unsuspecting cities of the 1960s, the agency conducted real-world testing of chemical behavioral modifiers on unwitting populations. We'll uncover the aerosol dispersal manifest and the unsuspecting subject blueprints. Join us next time for the Open Air Lab. In the meantime, I'll see you in the archives.